Hello everyone, welcome back to YK Reviews. For today's video, we're going to be talking about Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, so let's get into it here. Now with Part 4, this is following up to one of my favourite movies in the franchise, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. Some very questionable decisions when it comes to this actual movie itself. But for me, I honestly did have an enjoyable time when it comes to it. There was this one line that I'll mention it as we're talking about the movie that just really cracks me up. But if you do like this type of content, you do enjoy these retrospective reviews along with some horror movies, tier ranking, weekly entertainment news video, definitely consider subscribing to the channel so that you're not missing out on those types of videos. Really do appreciate all the support. But I want to get straight into it when it comes to Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. As we're opening with the movie, you've got Kristen, who is now actually recasted, so it's a different character here. I'll be honest, I kind of do enjoy the first portrayal rather than the second portrayal. Nothing against the actress itself, but I feel like maybe the way she was used in this movie just wasn't as strong as what she was done in the original movie. But we kind of get the same opening sequence. She's in the same house, Freddy Krueger's old house. As she's in the house, everything's just getting blasted around. Similar sequence to like the Part 3, where just you've got wood flying around, everything just getting blasted around her. She's flying around in the house, and that's when you get her calling out for Joey and Kade, the two other survivors in the movie. So they end up entering the dream sequence. She brings them into the dream sequence. They end up getting bit by a dog to end up waking them up. And so then they're in school talking about it. We get introduced to the other characters in this movie. So you've got Rick and you've got his sister Alice, along with other characters that you'll find throughout the whole movie, throughout the rest of the movie that we're going to be following. And we sort of get an insight into Rick and Alice's lifestyle when it comes to their dad being drunk all the time and like the abuse and that kind of stuff. So we're sort of following that dynamic. And so then with like the opening 20 minutes of the movie, you've got, for me, one of the worst decisions that they've done in the franchise by having Kade and Joey get killed off, with Kade dreaming. He falls asleep. He ends up in the same like scrap heap garage area with all the cars where in the previous movie the doctor did that exorcism on Freddy's body. Kade is back in that area. You see Freddy's body being resurrected, being brought back to life, and so Kade's trying to fight with Freddy. He ends up throwing all the cars into Freddy's body, but Freddy manages to escape. He starts blasting all these cars around Kade, ends up stabbing him and killing Kade. And then with Joey's in bed, he's laying down. This poster of this woman is on his wall, and suddenly the woman ends up disappearing. So you've got this glass waterbed with Joey laying down in it. He ends up going into the waterbed with this woman, ending up to be Freddy, killing him off. And as much as I hate the decision, like Joey's death sequence was really well done and really brilliantly executed, but I just don't understand. Like, you had the whole Dream Warriors, everything being built up from the third movie, the previous movie. You've got Joey, you've got Kade, you've got Kristen, now these three Dream Warriors, these three survivors, everything that they've endured in the previous movie, to then just killing off both Kade and Joey in the first opening 20 minutes, that is, as well. Like, I don't understand the decision whatsoever, and it just really left like a sour taste in my mouth. But Freddy does throw a brilliant line about a wet dream to Joey when he was killing him off, so I'll give them credit for that. So once Kristen finds out about this, they're in school, they find out that Kade and Joey have died. She and Rick and their friends, Kristen goes to take them to like Freddy's house outside, and then you get this weird dialogue of the mum, this white woman yelling underlay to these kids. I thought that was a very weird decision as well. Like, that baffles me. But then we kind of get caught up with like these characters and what they're going through in their day-to-day life. And so then with Kristen's mum, she ends up drugging her own daughter Kristen to ends up falling asleep. So by doing that, Kristen ends up waking up in this beach scenario, and that's where you get this amazing gif that I always use of Freddy with the glasses. But basically she's in this beach in this dream sequence. That's when you get Freddy appearing again with the shade. He ends up putting this sinkhole in the sand where Kristen is falling. He ends up stabbing her. She ends up going into this boiler room where she summons Alice, her friend, into this dream sequence. And then again, another weird decision is you've got Freddy killing off Kristen. So he ends up putting it into this like fire stove thingy. I don't know what you call them exactly, but by doing that, Kristen throws her dream power that she can bring people into the dream over to Alice. And so when Alice wakes up, her and Rick go to Kristen's house to find that her room is all on fire. Kristen's dead. So once again, you've got Joey, Kade, and Kristen, the Dream Warriors, the ones that they've been building up in the previous movie, all killed off within the space of 30 minutes, I believe, or 25 minutes or however long it was, but all in the opening movie. So all the characters we're following are now just dead. So now we have to follow all these new characters, which I just, like I said, I don't know the decision for that, like why they would do that. Like, I don't know if it's contract decision or behind the scenes dispute, but that just felt very odd to me. So then Freddy decides to go after these new characters that we've been following. So one particular part in school, they're doing this test. This character, Sheila, she is in the middle of this test when she falls asleep. Freddy appears and just sucks her face completely dry. A really disgusting and disturbing scene. But because of this, she ends up looking like she had an asthma attack and ends up dying in the middle of the classroom during the test. And then one of my favorite parts of this whole movie is you've got Rick, who's doing this training thingy. He ends up falling asleep, and then you've got this amazing training sequence with Freddy versus Rick in this kung fu karate. Freddy ends up able to like overpower him, and again throws this, one of my favorite lines in this whole franchise, when he goes sayonara Rick-san, and then just using his thingy to just stab Rick. So you've got the three characters we followed from the previous movie all killed off. You've got Rick, who was like sort of one of the major characters in this movie, being killed off, along with like Sheila, one of the minor characters in the movie, now being killed off. So Freddy's just going brutal in this movie, killing off people one by one. So Alice's brother is now dead. So then Alice, because of everything that's been going on, her friends, her brother are all being killed off. She ends up deciding to go to the movie theaters. She's sitting in this movie and ends up just being sucked into the screen, where she's in this diner cafe thing that she's working at, like in her real life. She's in this diner, but it's like sort of run down. She comes face to face with like the waitress, who's actually her in like I think 30 or 50 years time, just like this old woman. She serves her this pizza, where you've got Freddy sitting right next to her, this disgusting pizza. Like, you've got Freddy looking at like the eyeballs of Rick and stuff. It's just like some disgusting scenes right there. But Alice ends up trying to escape. She ends up meeting with Dan, like this jock guy. But they end up going to find her other friend, Debbie, I believe her name was. She's actually doing these exercise, doing this workout in her room. She's doing that thing where you like lay down and pull the weight thingy. Like, I don't go to the gym, guys. Like, I don't know what you call these things. The dumbbell thingy that you're laying down and pushing up, you have help with it. But Freddy, what he decides to do is push the dumbbell weight thingy. Her elbow ends up snapping, and like, I love the practical effects when it comes to these movies. I prefer more practical effects than CGI. I mentioned this in my Hellraiser reviews. When it comes to horror movies, you need more practical effects than you do CGI. And so with this, you've got her elbow snapping, her arms and elbows turn into insects, and then she just converts completely into an insect. It's just some brutal, disturbing sequence. But Debbie's basically a goner now. So as Alice and Dan are driving, trying to go into Debbie, she ends up seeing Freddy. She ends up trying to like drive and crash into him. That ends up actually injuring Dan, who actually needs to go into surgery. But as he's like falling asleep, you've got Freddy's dream sequence taking place into Dan. So Alice decides to enter the dream. Her and Dan end up trying to escape Freddy, and Dan ends up getting injured, but they somehow managed to wake up Dan in the process and actually save him. But now Alice all of a sudden is able to take after her brother Rick using martial arts kung fu. She actually ends up just beating up Freddy all of a sudden, which I just found very strange. Like that her brother, who's been doing martial arts kung fu for I think all of his life, isn't able to go toe to toe with Freddy, but she's now able to do it all of a sudden. But Freddy's just able to just smack her across the room, able to just easily overcome her. She ends up still coming back for more. She gets this cable thing, he tries to burn a hole in Freddy's chest, but Freddy's able to recover quickly. So what she decides to do in the aftermath and all this whole fighting there's some glass on the floor, so she ends up using a glass to show Freddy's reflection, which then causes all like the faces in his body to just suddenly emerge. Like, you've got hands and faces being pushed out of his body, and so all the souls just end up leaving Freddy, which I just find really strange, to be honest. Like, Freddy has appeared in mirrors before, he's seen his own reflection before. Now all of a sudden, in this time now, by Alice showing the reflection, now all of a sudden all the souls are just leaving the body. I just thought was very weird. Like, there was some really odd choices when it comes to this movie, but all the souls have left the body, ends up defeating Freddy. So Alice ends up beating Freddy till the next time, of course, but she ends up surviving. And so in the final sequence, the final shot of this movie, you've got her and Dan going on a date. Basically, they end up in this wishing well fountain thing. She throws a coin, she thinks she sees Freddy's reflection, but then just kind of brushes it off, ending the movie there. And out of the 4 movies so far, I feel like this one is sort of the weakest in terms of the decision makings. The one-liners Freddy throws in there is absolutely amazing. Some of the death sequences and the dream sequences was really well handled. But I just feel like the decision makings when it comes to characters being killed off, characters' ability to beat Freddy or fight Freddy just was really, really strained, but not the worst in the franchise whatsoever. So I want to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you have seen the movie, what are your thoughts about this? What your thoughts are about the kung fu fight between Rick and Freddy? I really want to know your thoughts about that. Also, in terms of the movie itself, where you would rank it, did you enjoy it, did you hate it? Let me know all of that in the comment section down below. But that about wraps it up for another retrospective review for Nightmare on Elm Street. Again, keep an eye out. I'm going to be doing the rest of the movies for the rest of the week, with the tier ranking video coming in on the night of October 31st. So subscribe so that you're not missing out on that. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. This is YK Reviews. Peace.